All is fair in love and war, and that's a fact. Perhaps that is not exactly what Archie thinks about the matter. Love hasn't been very kind to him his whole life, and to take the reins of his fate in his own hands, he does something unexpected and bold once. In a disastrous state, covered entirely in mud, stinking Archie walks into a student ball, jumps up on the stage, and, after a brief commotion, appears in front of a microphone. Something that will further worsen his looks is thrown at him then, and before it hits his face and humiliates him in front of his love, he turns to us in an attempt to explain his situation. He knows he might regret doing this for his entire life, but love knows no bounds. Nothing can hurt like being in love, so it doesn't really matter to Archie. From the literal beginning, he's been a best friend to Amelia Brown. They have always been so close that even their parents and their dogs are best friends. Being 5 years old, the duo decided to make a pact there must be no secrets between them. At first, nothing was easier than holding this promise, but soon the circumstances changed. Namely, Archie fell in love with Amelia. Still, the friendship held strongly both in delightful and dreadful times. A few times, the secret tried to slip out of his tongue, but it never came out as he wanted it to. Sadly, as Archie stands on the stage, Amelia isn't his best friend anymore. And to explain how he got where he is now, he takes us a few years back, to the day when he finally decided to admit his love to her. Holidays are over, and confident in his plan, he imagines how perfect their entrance into school is going to be. Naturally, reality is the opposite of imagination. After an encounter with a bully, Archie and Amelia discuss the upcoming ball, and it all seems as if everything is still going to be fine. In a few seconds, however, a disaster is unleashed. Riding a motorcycle, a foreign exchange student, Billy Walsh, appears on campus. Amelia is dumbfounded, and Archie realizes that the universe did him wrong once more. The young man is from Hollywood, and even the dean seems to turn red in front of him. Billy makes an entrance speech and receives a warm, passionate welcome. People are automatically attracted to him. Only Archie hates his guts. Clearly, he's in a losing situation. Amelia denies when she's accused of being attracted to the new exchange student, but clearly, she's suddenly doing everything to make herself look more desirable. Still, Archie has no intention to bend this easily. The first phase of his plan is to secure her evening. Thanks to a certain clever and generous bribe, their favorite movie is playing at the Savoy after school, and Amelia is delighted to hear it. But sadly, this is exactly the moment when Billy enters the buffet. He is so cool that Archie finds it impossible to assure Amelia of his doucheness. Billy has perfect reflexes. He's polite, he's a loner, he reads books, and he is perceived as different and desirable by everybody in the room. Still, Archie's plan limps forward. That evening, two best friends are alone in a movie theater as their favorite horror movie plays on screen. When the end of the story is near, Archie's heart rate starts to rise, and he finds it more and more difficult to breathe calmly. Anxious, he prepares to pop a certain question and gives himself an internal pep talk. Looking over to his love, he walks far too long, and Amelia realizes that he has something to say. She can never imagine what's going on in his mind, however, so she maintains a cheerful mood. Seconds go on, and gradually, the boy finds himself unable to take a step forward. Sadly, defeated by anxiety, Archie leans back into his chair and starts acting extremely unusual. The initial defeat, however, is soon followed up by another attempt, making a proper introduction and preparing soil for the enormous revelation. He says that he has something extremely big to say. Coincidentally, Amelia responds that she has something important to share as well. A seed of hope appears in Archie's mind, and it soon spreads wings, thinking that she's going to say the same thing. He insists that Amelia go first and waits for her to say her words first. Anxious, he looks her in the eyes and hears her express how much she loves Billy Walsh. Face flushed, the poor boy takes it badly. After an initial disastrous reaction, he recollects himself and puts on a heavy facade of a man who's perfectly okay. And so, thus begins the craving of Billy Walsh for Amelia and the most dreadful times for Archie. The boy starts working out, but the exchange student follows his lead and enters a swim team. Every time Amelia sees her body, it seems as if she's about to faint, and when she catches other girls flirting with her love interest, rage fills every part of her body. Compared to their son, Archie's parents, George and Lily, are having the time of their lives. Their exposition of love is not at all over the top. Their house is a magnificent piece of architecture and design. That afternoon, Amelia overhears a conversation between the adults about her widower Father Rupert's new potential love interest. The girl seems quite happy to hear her father is finally moving on in her personal life. The man, however, seems to be in Archie's kind of situation. He has no idea how to take the first step forward. This is when Archie's parents reveal a secret to Rupert. Their marriage seems to have been on the verge of total destruction. Nothing worked until they met a certain individual whom they called a love doctor. This is the person who will definitely give him a proper direction. Overhearing this conversation, the name Love Doctor embroiders itself in Amelia's mind. The next day at school, she sees a popular girl named Amber with Billy, and gradually, she becomes more and more assured to contact the love doctor. Naturally, Archie is eager to make her reconsider. The ball is coming near, and clearly, the exchange student is already taken by Amber. Archie adds that there are countless other boys who are desperate to take her to the dance. He means himself, of course. But after he is asked to specify what he means, he fails to say the truth again. His situation is worsened when Amelia tells him in full honesty that she has never had a boyfriend before, and before she finishes up the last term at school, she wants to experience things with Billy. In this moment, Archie makes a terrible mistake. Not realizing that what he is about to say will definitely hurt Amelia, he tries to convince her that together they are at the bottom of the food chain in school. The popular and attractive people go for each other, while people like Amelia and him are left to fend for themselves. Hearing his best friend explain how unattractive and uninteresting she is to kill her hopes, tears come to Amelia's eyes. With no intention to speak with Archie again, she storms away and doesn't look back. Archie's mistake proves to be fatal for the friendship. One day, to get Amelia back, the boy sneaks inside his parents' room and acquires the love doctor's number. He gives it to his best friend the next morning and receives the most heartfelt and firm hug from her. Taken by the emotion of total relief, Amelia admits to him that she was beginning to think he was in love. Archie's face is flushed again, and Amelia begins to doubt that it might actually be true. She asks him, giving him a chance to do what he should have done years before, but Archie fails to come out clean again. In the next scene, Archie is chased by a bully. The boy finds refuge in a school theater and finds himself facing a play of Romeo and Juliet. Seeing a clumsy, shy boy defeat Tybalt makes him smile. Watching the wrap-up of the play, Archie realizes that anybody can be Romeo. That evening, he is as enthusiastic and hopeful as ever. He is young and full of life, and he must do everything in his power to decide his fate. That evening, he finds an app that alters his appearance by making him look like an old man and cooks up a perfect plan. In the following scene, Archie sneaks up on Amelia's locker, steals the number of the love doctor, and puts inside a present for her. Amelia catches him while doing so, but since her love interest appears in the hallway, Archie has all the time he needs to finish up his business. His plan clearly failed. However, Amelia doesn't seem to enjoy his books quite as much anymore. She doesn't know yet that inside the book is a new number that will lead her to a false love doctor, played by a certain someone she knows very well. That night, after getting sure that Rupert wouldn't enter her room, Amelia called the number, and Archie answered. On the other side of the call, he appears as an old, wrinkly version of himself, trying to calm his raging nerves. After an initial, heartfelt monologue about love, he asks her client to give him an insight into her situation. He hears Amelia talk about Amber and all the girls with big eyebrows who are clearly deserving of Billy's attention. The love doctor Archie comes up with his first terrible advice. Amelia should put on bigger eyebrows. Naturally, this plan ends up being a massive embarrassment for the girl. This is why, that night, she was as furious with the false love doctor as ever. After screaming at him to make things right, she is calmly asked to convey what happened. Archie seems to be quite pleased with how his plan worked out. To justify himself, he tells his client that, thanks to the so-called embarrassment, Billy now knows her and will never forget her face. She is noticed, and thus the initial phase is over successfully. Now it is time for Amelia to initiate contact. She must stare at him all the time, with a particularly strong, uncomfortable force. Within the course of the next day, Archie watches his love interest, trying to do his bidding and happy to see her going in the wrong direction, and gives her more terrible advice. One day, while fulfilling one of those foolish assignments, Amelia hurts her forehead and goes into the toilet. Suddenly, Amber walks inside and speaks with her friend about her relationship with Billy. The American student seems to be coming over to her house this weekend, and Amber is sure that everything is going to go well. It's tough for Amelia to hear how her plan is failing to work. The next day, she decides to steer away from the love doctor's advice and do something extremely obvious. Dressed up like Amber and her popular friends, she walks inside the school decisively and gets stares from all directions. Even the dazzling American fails to look away from her as she drops her pencil in a slow theatrical motion and starts bending forward. The boys go crazy behind her, and Billy smiles, but suddenly, a car hits her from behind, and she ends up being embarrassed once more. Brain fogged, Amelia doesn't believe her eyes when the exchange student runs to her for help. Archie reacts quickly to this. Reactively, he dashes forward as well and takes the matter into his own hands. Dragging Amelia along, he walks away as quickly as possible, leaving the confused Billy behind. The latter picks up her pencil then and appears in the dining hall, having it stick out of his pocket. Amber and her girls notice this, of course, so they decide to do something about it. Coming up to Amelia, they use one of the most effective battle strategies and encircle their victim. Now, Amber unleashes all her charm and insults to embarrass her opponent as much as possible. For a while, it looks as if she is extremely successful in making Amelia's life miserable, but suddenly, Archie decides to step into the scene and stand up to his friend. Seeing how hurt Amelia was after hearing that Amber was going on a date with Billy, Archie addresses the bully girl and uses all his wits and creativity to shame her in front of everybody. Amber attempts to fight back, but every time, Archie returns with something stronger and more tasteful. Finally, the bully realizes that she won't get by with just words, so she decides to throw a milkshake in Amelia's face. This gives her a little advantage at first, but soon, something is thrown at her face as well. Finally, to wrap it all up in utter triumph, Archie damages his own appearance as well and walks outside the room proudly with his best friend. On the meadow in front of the school, the two have a wonderful moment in the next scene. Amelia is as impressed and proud of her best friend as ever. The connection between them seems to deepen as the two suddenly start getting closer and closer to each other. No words are spoken, and a smell of gravity fills the air, but unexpectedly, Billy appears from behind, ruining Archie's best shot. He asks Amelia out, saying that he has always preferred to meet the people who get milkshakes thrown at them, rather than the people who do the throwing themselves. Naturally, Amelia's answer is yes. Once Billy walks away, she explodes in happiness and jumps at her gloomy best friend. That evening, she praises the false love doctor and asks for another piece of advice. For a while, Archie is swallowed by unhopeful thoughts, but then he recollects all his wits and cooks up another destructive piece of advice. He urges the girl to be as mean to her date as possible. If circumstances arise, she should even be mean to other people at the restaurant as well. And so, once Amelia appears in the restaurant with Billy, she starts rigorously carrying out the advice of the Falcon Love Doctor, managing to act as dreadfully and inappropriately as possible. She even goes as far as flirting with a waiter. She calls her date Billy Boy, chugs beer, checks her phone far too often, and does a number of other terrible things. Initially, her date remains polite and sweet, but soon he realizes that something is wrong with Amelia. His face loses kindness as his date begins blabbering about his perfect genes and strong, happy family. Soon, Billy realizes that coming here was a mistake. Paying for the meal hurriedly, he stands up and storms out of the restaurant. The girl tries to run after him, but once she steps outside, the exchange student is already riding away. Desperate that she has made a foolish mistake, Amelia makes her way towards a parked chair grievingly and falls into self-beating when suddenly she hears the roaring of the motorcycle engine again. Billy comes back, stops in front of her, and tells her the truth about himself. His widower father is distant, and in comparison with a widely spread belief, he is perfectly capable of feeling sorrow and despair. Amelia will never find out about it, however, because, just like everybody else, she doesn't care. Expressing this deep concern and anger, he finishes up by clarifying that tonight was a mistake and rides away again. Amelia has nothing to say to justify herself. The next afternoon, Archie sits at the dinner table alone when he hears Amelia's voice in the school intercom system. The girl is openly sharing her scars with everybody in school. After a few embarrassing stories, she actually begins telling stories that hold enormous value to her. Recalling how her mother passed away, tears start rolling from her eyes, and her voice begins to crack. When she begins remembering how her father's behavior changed afterwards, Archie appears behind the window and begs her to stop. Still, the opening up continues, and soon, other kids from school will come to her as well. Nobody but Archie and Billy are taking her scars seriously. Making fun of her, the classmates are having a lot of fun, as we learn from Archie that this is the fulfillment of yet another one of his assignments. This time, he truly regrets giving out this harsh piece of advice. Seeing his love devalue the deepest and most vulnerable parts of herself makes Archie feel like an evil and weak villain. Suddenly, he finds himself in a position where he realizes that loving someone means setting them free. Taking a fire extinguisher, he clears the area from all the cynical students and takes Billy Walsh to Amelia. Saying nothing, he leaves the two alone and gives the love of his life a chance to have her first kiss with someone else. At last, he is done sabotaging Amelia's life and does something to further increase her chances of happiness. It starts to rain in school when Billy and Amelia start leaning towards each other. But sadly, Amelia won't have her first kiss today. The dean intervenes and is furious with the kids, giving them a detention for forever. Still, the relationship between the two takes flight soon enough, and Archie finds himself eating alone at school. A weird thing happens then. All of a sudden, Amelia, who's been so eager to get into a relationship with Billy, finds herself drawing back from the boy of her dreams. Discovering that, in truth, she scarcely has anything in common with Billy, she gets back to flicking through old photographs of her and Archie. Distance starts to grow, and to answer the questions arising in her mind, she turns to the love doctor once more. The latter, however, chooses not to answer the call. One day, when exams are finished, both Archie and Amelia notice as a magnificent comet cuts the sky. After breaking in awe at this sight, Amelia hears the voice of her father coming up from behind. Here she initiates a conversation about her mother and hears for the first time the story of how her father met her mother. What she hears changes her perspective on love dramatically. As it turns out, after their initial meeting, her parents became best friends rather than plunging into a full-blown relationship right away. For a long time, they spent every waking hour together and preferred each other's company over everything. The feelings Amelia has had recently make perfect sense to her now. Sharing this delightful moment with her father, she realizes that her relationship with Archie is closely mimicking the relationship patterns of Rupert and the love of his life. Amelia prepares for the ball in the next scene, and to wrap up the process, she takes out a box full of memories of her mother. Inside the box lies a bracelet her mother gave her on her final bed. Amelia was told that day to always follow her heart, and she is planning to follow this advice. Soon, Billy arrives to take her to the ball, and desperately, she tries to escape him. Rupert's new girlfriend helps her sneak down through a window, and after grabbing her bicycle, she rides away as quickly as possible. Paying no attention to her dress coughing up in the gear changer, she soon crashes in a meadow, but even this fails to stop her from going to Archie. The boy is extremely surprised when Amelia enters her room in the next scene. The girl he always loved comes into his room after 1 week of total abscess, and to add to it all, she urges him to get dressed for the ball and drink champagne with her. Instead of exploding in happiness, Archie is troubled by this sudden change. He thinks that the reason for this unexpected visit is that Amelia had a fight with her new boyfriend and is now here to receive a pat on the back from good old Archie. Very soon, however, he realizes that his doubt is completely false. Amelia is here because she made the mistake of reaching for something that has always been in front of her. Without properly realizing it, she has always loved him and is here to admit this love to him. It is hard to imagine how many times Archibald has imagined this moment. But what happens next has probably never crossed his mind. A new dress is quickly put together for Amelia, and after looking in the mirror, she decides to share her happiness with the love doctor. She sends him 2 messages, and both times she hears Archie's phone buzzing. She goes over to check, then discovers his secret. Reality falls over her head as she realizes that Archie has been lying to her this whole time. Naturally, she has no intention to speak with him or to listen to him try to justify himself. She leaves immediately, and Archie finds himself facing a life-changing dilemma. Just like Amelia before, he decides to follow his heart and grabs the keys to his parents' porch. The finale is getting nearby. We are now almost back to where we started. Before walking inside the party, Archie encounters some bullies and is taken somewhere else. Meanwhile, Amelia decides to make things right with Billy. He apologizes to him and breaks up with him in a calm and reserved manner. The boy takes it all very well. He respects her decision to concentrate on herself for a while. Once Amelia walks away from him, one of the bullies who recently took Archie away comes up to Billy and tells him in a celebratory tone that his main problem is taken care of. Billy doesn't understand what he means right away, but he soon gets an idea. It is in a few minutes that he approaches Archie, who's tied to a rugby pole. He rescues him and tells him to go get her back. And so, we are finally back where we started. After getting strangled on the stage, he tells the singer that it is about a girl and gets an opportunity to speak in front of a microphone. People boo at him, and a slice of cake is thrown at his face. Seeing Archie humiliated like this brings much pain to Amelia. She watches the boy she loves fearfully attempt to begin his speech. Soon, overwhelmed by insults, Archie starts drawing back, but suddenly he looks up at the glowing disco, and a warm feeling starts going over him. The disco resembles a night sky that has been bringing him a sense of security for as long as he can remember. Suddenly, he knows exactly what to say. Everybody on the dance floor is like a star, magnificent and unique in their own individual way. He himself, however, is a part of a binary star, a system that consists of 2 stars orbiting a common center. One of them is much shallower, but another, the primary one, shines much brighter and much hotter. Thanks to his own mistakes, he almost destroyed his bright counterpart, but now he knows that he will never fail to keep sight of its brilliance. His speech's gravitational honesty quiets the entire hall, and once he expresses the love he felt for as long as he can remember, a tear drops down from Amelia's eye. Archie leans towards her then, and even the worst bullies start cheering for them as the couple kisses each other for the first time.